Welcome to That's Canon, the podcast talking about the canon film series and other similar movies. This is episode 59, and I'm Phil.
And I'm Greg.
And Greg, we are dangerously close.
Dangerously close to a really good run of good movies.
Exactly, right? It was funny because I'm editing America 3000, so I'm having to listen to words like Wagos and scan again.
Oh my God, no.
It makes me want to jump off a fucking cliff. But then
scan this, Greg.
We get a movie like Dangerously Close, which I believe I was like, have you ever seen a movie by Albert Pyun? They're not that fucking good. But this one turned out to be like really good.
Yeah. I mean, so I feel like we had Murphy's Law last time, and that was pretty good. The Naked Cage.
The Naked Cage was enjoyable.
It was good. Behind Enemy Lines, I think, was pretty good.
Yeah.
Obviously we've had the Pirates's and the America 3000s in there to kind of spoil the bunch, but yeah, we had some pretty good flicks recently. I don't know what it is about 1986, but it's like highs and lows, man. Really low lows, really high highs.
Yeah, you know what? I knew this was going to be a good one when it came on, and I saw those intro credits and it said Tom Matthews. I was like, fuck yes.
Yes.
Tom Matthews from Revenge of the Living Dead. Gotta fucking love that guy.
We'll touch on these as we get to them, but this is like the cast of this movie is like 80s horror and B-movie royalty here. Lots of ties to Return of the Living Dead, to Christine, to Nightmare on Elm Street, to Friday the 13th. Like, I think there's even some like direct references in there too, but lots of really familiar faces to people who are listening to this podcast. You'll know these faces.
Exactly. And as we just said, Albert Pyun, the director, he made such films as Captain America, not the one with Chris Evans though, Kickboxer 2, Cyborg, Alien from LA, which is a Vinegar Syndrome release. That one also stars or has Tom Matthews in it. I wouldn't say that he stars in it. It's a pretty fun film. But he has a pretty long and, I guess in quotes, illustrious career. He's done a lot.
He's got a career.
He has a career. Sure. It's more than my movie career.
I was going to say, yeah, he's made more movies than we have.
The movie opens up. Sweet Canon logo. We don't get the jingle, but we get like this really cool horror like theme and these really cool sound effects when like the sea is being assembled in canon.
Yeah, it's kind of a really interesting synth soundtrack. And you brought up the horror term. So, well, this movie, it's genre wise hard to pin down, but this opening sequence, I thought it was going to be more conventional horror, but it bounces around quite a bit. But the music definitely feels very horror at this point. That's for sure.
Exactly. It starts up with a Batman looking motherfucker putting some raccoon eyes on, and he's looking at student profiles from the magnet school, right? And it's bathed in red light, gives you the illusion or the feeling of anger and fear and dread. And they're loading a 6-shooter. Now this 6-shooter, pretty interesting in that the where you put the bullets, it doesn't like pop out to like the left, but the pistol is like a breakaway, and you load the shells in, and then you like click it back up and it locks. You know what I mean?
Like it hinges down instead
like
of
it hinges down instead of going to the side.
Oh, okay. So it's almost like a like one of those like big elephant gun where they kind of like hinges down and you put the shells in. Interesting.
That's kind of weird, right?
I don't think I've seen the pistol, like a handgun, do something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I ain't no gun expert. Talking out my ass. I ain't no Joe.
I think we've all, everyone who's been listening realizes that me and you, we only know guns go pew pew pew, but that's about it.
Guns go pew. You heard it here, folks. Gun experts.
But yes, so there's a air of mystery of what's going on, and then we cut to a kid like popping out of like a sewer, not a sewer grate, but almost like a drainage ditch area.
Yeah, like those big, like they're like 3 feet in diameter, the kind of ones that you can kind of like shimmy through if you crouch down. Everyone had one of these in their neighborhood that they used to play in, and their parents told them not to.
Exactly. And then he's running through a fogged, fog lit brush as a group of teenagers are chasing him, and they're kind of like hooting and hollering and making caw sounds like they're
Making
crows.
signals. Yeah, I have to say, like this scene kind of started a really interesting trend in this movie with like the lighting is just it's good.
It
Like
is.
we're so conditioned to expect really shitty like lighting and cinematography in these movies, but the lighting in this one really is really good. Like in this scene, they don't do day for night, which is already a plus, but it's like it's not too dark or too bright. It's like the brightness, it's like backlit really nicely, so everything's got a silhouette, but it's kind of rimmed with kind of like light, and there's a lot of like fog and things in the background. It just looks really nice. It looks more expensive than a Canon movie.
I think maybe that's like the selling point for Albert Pyun is that he never really gets a large budget, but
But
what
there's
he
a lot with a
does
little.
with it, he does pretty well with it. Like his films do look good. It's just the quality of the content sometimes.
Is kind of dubious. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh the person that they're chasing is strung up upside down on a tree, and essentially he's being told like, hey, you're like a piece of shit. You're infecting our school. You shouldn't be here.
You're not
You need to
welcome.
leave. And they threaten to kill him, and they razz with him. And we really quickly realize that the 6 shooter is actually just a paintball gun. As they shoot him in the forehead, it's this almost like evokes missing in action flashbacks.
Oh, yeah, with that British the press guy, right? Remember
Yeah,
they like fake shot him.
they're like, they're not going to do anything, don't worry.
Jeez. Yeah. What an interesting comparison. A bunch of kids harassing a student to like horrible Vietnam torture. But you're
Exactly.
right. It's exactly what's happening.
And since this is 1986, there is no lack of the F word in it, and I'm not talking about fuck.
No. That thankfully I don't recall hearing it too much more after this, but you're right. It wouldn't be an 80s canon movie without some
It is
homophobic slurs.
it is like it's a go-to insult in the 80s and early 90s. Yeah.
Yeah.
As the four teenagers are patting themselves on the back for scaring a kid shitless, we do realize that one of them is holding an amazingly 80s VCR camcorder, the one that like you need to
Oh
wear
my
a
God,
proton
yeah.
pack to hold.
Like giant, oh yeah, it's like those giant shoulder mounted things. And yeah, I think the actual like tape recorder is like you said, like something that they sling off their back. It's huge. Like, why would you videotape this?
I
It
I
like
I don't know.
hey cops, we've got ready-made evidence right for you.
It's one of those things of like, why does any criminal keep a souvenir? Probably to relive the moment, right?
If yeah, the bunch of creepy teenagers are watching this shit, getting their rocks off in an
Exactly.
abandoned.
You know the
Yeah.
lead guy is fucking jerking off watching this thing again.
Oh,
He's
100%.
like, I
Oh
love
yeah.
this.
Oh yeah. Shoot them with the paintball gun. Yeah.
It's so weird. So weird. The four teenagers walk to their cars, and you know that they're rich because they're listening to opera music,
As rich people do.
as rich people do. And the kid that they terrified throws a rock and shatters the windshield of one of the cars, which causes them to stop. And another confrontation ensues. The kid is kind of dumb for doing this.
Yeah, I wrote that in my notes. Like, why after something like that, like why would you confront them again? You're outnumbered, they've got weapons. Why would
Exactly.
yeah, just get out of there, dude.
Especially that part. Not only are you outnumbered, they have like crowbars, crossbows, a paintball gun, which sure is not going to kill you, but it's probably going to hurt like a motherfucker.
Sure, especially if
Like,
you take one in the face. Like, yeah.
yeah, again, I don't get it. And sadly, the kid is dispatched by getting his knife slit. Or his knife slit. His neck slit.
My
His
knife,
knife was
no.
slit, Greg. They do I guess the classy thing of not showing the graphic kill. And I think the movie doesn't really get too graphic until the end of the movie. But
Yeah, I actually kind of like because they kept the opera music from the car, like it kind of like sticks around as the background music. And I think they do like it's like silhouetted with the lighting and the opera music. I think it goes slow mo. It's actually kind of a really cinematic way to do the kill. And yeah, it's not. I don't think. Yeah, this movie is not really gory much at all. I don't think.
which is it's kind of shocking because it is a rated R film. They didn't go all the way with it, but that's good. I think having some restraint is definitely good.
Yeah, it in this kind of movie, especially as we get, the actual like the real meat of the movie comes later. I think it fits. It would be out of place to be too gory in a movie like this. So yeah, definitely points for the movie there.
And then we meet our main character. His character's name is Danny Lennox. He's played by J. Eddie Peck, who was in 297 episodes of The Young and the Restless.
Really?
Yeah. The guy,
like soap royalty.
I know. And he looks like a fucking soap opera actor. Like this dude has like the chin, the looks, the height. Like he has everything going for him to being like a leading man. I'm actually surprised that we
Yeah.
haven't seen him in more 80s films.
Yeah, it's got that a very recognizable face too. I looked him up a little bit, and yeah, I didn't look at his TV credits. Otherwise, I would have like, oh, that explains it. But his movie credits is really not a lot there that I would have seen him from. I don't think I had seen him before.
Yeah. But did you see the one film that he's in called Curse 2, The Bite?
Now I saw that was near the top. Is that I can only imagine just based on the title that's some quality schlock.
Never seen it, but the tagline for it is after being bitten by a radioactive snake, a young man begins to spawn snake-like creatures with a vicious, murderous nature. That movie sounds amazing.
That sounds dope. He spawns them? Like I thought you were gonna say he turns into a snake, but is he like shitting out snakes or something?
It sounds like it. He's pooping out little snakes.
Aw, that's adorable.
That movie sounds super fucking cool.
Candidate for also a similar movie, Curse 2.
Exactly. Yeah, and then he's there with his dad. His dad doesn't really play too much of a role into it besides just being, I guess, dad, right?
Yeah, I get the impression that this kid was kind of a latchkey kid. His dad seems like he's working all the time and kind of not really present, but doesn't seem like a bad guy, which is a refreshing change. He's not like abusive or something.
Exactly. And you can tell that they're definitely down on their luck. Their house isn't that nice. They have this fucking ginormous goldfish in a fishbowl. Did you notice this?
Oh my God. I not only did I notice it, Phil, how awesome is it that the character in the movie also commented on it?
Yeah,
like I wrote it down. It's like, oh wow, that fish is way too big for the bowl. And then like not 2 seconds later, the dad's like, we need to get this goldfish a new bowl. God damn, I love when that happens.
exactly. It's so weird. So weird.
Yeah, like why put it there to begin with? But it's a nice little touch. You like when they do that.
Exactly. It's Albert Pyun's fish, and he's like, let's get this into the movie. This will be a talking point. Right?
Why is he bringing his fish to set?
Who knows?
How about you weird motherfucker?
But we hear in the background like screeching cars and harsh turns, and it's Danny's best friend, Ripper.
No, it's Kruger.
Oh, Gruber. Sorry.
Kruger.
Gruber? Kruger?
Hans Gruber?
Brandon Bancroft plays Kruger Rains. Kruger, that sounds like a Nazi thing. Kruger Rain?
Yeah.
That sounds like a Nazi thing. But
Kruger,
yeah, Kruger
for Nazi.
Also, he did not have that long of a career. He was in the Tom Hanks movie Bachelor Party.
Big hit.
He was also in the other He was in a Roland Emmerich film, Universal Soldier, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme and Dolph Lundgren. And that's kind of it. Like, that didn't do too much. Again,
That's
kind of surprised.
Yeah, that's kind of a shame. This guy, this character Kruger, he's kind of like a punk rock metalhead guy, really loud and in your face, but he was kind of annoying at first, but he grew on me as the movie went on. He's a good actor.
Exactly. He kind of reminds me of people that I knew in high school that try to act tough, or try to evoke like I'm a badass, but really not too much of a badass,
Yeah,
right?
you can definitely tell he's kind of he's good on the inside. He's got a soft nudity center.
Exactly. And these two have a good, like, I guess, dichotomy between them, where Kruger is the punk and Danny is just a down on his luck nerd. He's like really smart. He's good with school. Like, you wouldn't really expect these two to be buddies, but that's just how life is sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's how you know Kruger is good on the inside. Like these two probably wouldn't be friends.
He's with the white bread Danny. That's how you know that they're
Kruger's white bread on the inside.
exactly. And Kruger has to be like an electrical genius too, because he's fucking like pimped out his car with like external speakers and all these
I
different
know.
buttons and gizmos. I expected this car to do more in the
It's
movie.
like go back in time or something. It's got that DeLorean aspect to it, especially when the speakers pop out of the roof of the car. It looks like a
Yeah.
DeLorean.
Uh I don't. Yeah, I kind of expected like maybe fighting like the evil gang, like it was gonna, I don't know, do something, but we didn't really get too much. But you can definitely tell that Kruger is a smart dude as he terrorizes kids as he tries to get to his parking spot at school. Um, and if you have a keen eye, you quickly do realize that there's more, as you said, horror people in this, as you get a quick glimpse of Miguel A. Nunez Jr.
Hell
walking.
yeah. Miguel Nunez, again, another alumni from Return of the Living Dead and Friday the 13th Part 5,
A
right?
new beginning.
A new
Yes.
beginning. Yeah.
Ooh, baby.
Baby.
Ooh, baby.
Baby.
Those damn
These
enchiladas.
goddamn enchiladas. My favorite quote from that entire series of movies.
Isn't
Those
it weird? That
goddamn
is
enchiladas.
definitely a top five quote for me, that's for sure. It has like nothing to do with
It has
Jason.
nothing to, no, it's just a guy who ate enchiladas and has got to take a shit.
Oh man, and I think that's what like horror movies nowadays are missing. Just like really goofy,
Weird
campy
lines.
characters, and that don't take the situation too seriously.
Right? It's like, and yeah, like I can't remember another. If you put me on a spot and think of a line from Friday the 13th, that is easily the first one that I think of.
Oh,
I'm
definitely.
I'm struggling to think of one that's related to Jason right now.
It probably goes to like the song "Ooh Hoo Baby," and those damn enchiladas.
Oh my
You know what?
gosh.
I couldn't even. I think the only other one that I could quote off the top of my head is from Jason X, where the doctor's like, "It's okay, guys. He just wanted his machete back."
Oh, Friday the 13th. We love you so much.
And then you know what?
Shout
Again,
out to part 5.
part 5. This is another quote where he's like, "Do you want a part of my candy bar?" And he gets fucking axed to death.
The fat guy in the
The
beginning.
fat
Yeah.
guy. Oh my god.
And who was the fat guy killed by? Suicide from Return of the Living
Suicide.
Dead.
Yeah.
It all comes back. It's like a circle, Phil. It
If,
all
if
comes back to Return of the Living Dead.
if someone from Return of the Living Dead is in your film, it's gonna at least be a 3-star movie.
For me, hands down. Yeah. It's just like from casting quality alone. So Dangerously Close, you get major points for all of the Return of the Living Dead cred you got in this.
Exactly. Exactly. As I guess the punk teenagers are congregating, we get a flash of essentially the Gestapo, and it definitely evokes like like ominous vibes as the jocks are all in their like Letterman jackets. They're talking to a really stuffy teacher, and they're kind of taking notes and assessing the school situation, right?
Yeah, so we should talk about this crew a little bit. So we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but there's this crew on the campus, and they're the ones who we find out they're the ones who were like terrorizing kids who don't think belong there. That when we see them kind of out of their like their scary their freak out outfits that we saw them in the beginning, they still have this weird like American History X sort of like white supremacy vibe going on. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
It's like they're like white power light assholes.
They're off white power.
Eggshell power.
Exactly. It's I think it's just like the hairstyle, the popped collar, the like the sweater vest kind of vibe that they're wearing. They're all wearing like, what is it called? What's the type of sweater? Like
Like a
cable knit sweaters. They're all wearing like a cable knit sweater.
It's like white supremacy, like neo-Nazi types, but richer. That's the kind of vibe that this crew gives off. And honestly, like again, more respect to sort of people behind the scenes in this movie. Like just the fact that we can kind of get those vibes from the costumes and the hairstyles that they put these guys in, like, well, really well done. You immediately know what these guys are about just by looking at them.
The crew is led by what's his name? Randy, played by John Stockwell.
Yeah, from Christine, right?
Yep, he was Dennis in Christine. He was Cougar in Top Gun. He was in the Friday the 13th series. That was not based off of the movie at all. But he was in one episode of that. And like, again, like a pretty good actor, really memorable in the role, but his career kind of just never really set off. I don't know. It's weird. And then also we've already noted that Tom Matthews is one of the other people in this gang. I gotta tell you, I got a boner for this guy. He is so fucking handsome in the 80s. Like he's got like that square jaw. He's got like the entire look of.
But he's got that kind of like chiseled look, but it doesn't look like an asshole. He's got a kind, like that kind of kind face. Yeah.
And then there's another person in the gang called Ripper. He doesn't get a real name. He doesn't get a first and a last name. He's identified because that's what his fucking hat says. It says
Does
Ripper.
His head
Yes.
I didn't notice that. What a douche.
Exactly. The fucking name tag of I don't know.
You got Ripper on your underwear there too, dude.
Exactly. Don Michael Paul is Ripper. He was also in Alien from LA.
Man, it's a small crew of B-movie actors in there.
Exactly. And then he was in one episode of The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. Did you ever see that movie?
I have no idea what you're talking about. Briscoe kind of what?
It's a TV show with Bruce Campbell. He plays Briscoe County Jr. It's kind of like a sci-fi Western show.
Huh.
It was pretty good if my kid brain is actually remembering it well.
Is this like another Mama's Family situation where like you watch all these vintage TV shows and you go back and look at them, but everyone else is like, what the hell?
Gold. But it could be because also Bruce Campbell had another TV show called Jack of All Trades where he plays a pirate.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no.
Of course he does.
Okay.
Never heard of it.
I'm alone in this boat.
You've watched a lot more vintage TV than I have.
I do. I do watch a lot of vintage TV.
My TV knowledge, I mean, except for niche things like Star Trek, it pretty much doesn't go back much earlier than the early 90s for Star Trek. Yeah.
There you go. But as we return back to the movie, our lead actors, they're in the school newspaper room. And Randy, the leader of the neo-Nazi gang, I guess we'll call them, is kind of
Sentinels.
The Sentinels. That's right. They actually have a legitimate name. The Sentinels. He's kind of given like a speech of, I guess, how would you describe it? Kind of like bringing back school pride and having ownership of the situation around them instead of just kind of like being I don't know, like
we need to take response, like, because he's talking about the fact that like graffiti is up and people are, kids are dealing drugs and doing drugs, and
yeah,
and he's like low key blaming it on all of these kind of quote unquote pores that they're bringing in
the
through
pores, yeah.
through the magnet school program. And like that's one of the part of this movie that I wish they leaned into a little bit more, because like I think we both kind of got that was what was going on, but they should have done more with that, like showed some more of like the clashes between like the rich kids who like think it's their school, and then the other like the underprivileged kids, like our main character, the poor kids who kind of came in on a scholarship basically, and
Yeah.
showing them conflicting more. But that's basically the speech he's giving, is like we need to clean up our school, and it's us as student leaders, it's our responsibility.
Student leaders, yes. That's the word that he uses that I was trying to think of, and fuck does that upset me so much.
Oh yeah,
I
I feel like everyone has known someone like this in their real life too.
exactly. I think in schools definitely push that whole student leadership angle to offset the burden of doing the right thing onto students. You know what I mean? Like, oh,
Yeah.
you kids need to clean up this school. Like, well, no, you're the fucking like you're in charge. You, you
Yeah, but Phil, the principal might get sued, and he doesn't want to get sued.
the BP's blaming us for ruining the environment, but they spilled millions of gallons into the
We're
ocean.
sorry.
Exactly, right? It's kind of like just passing the buck.
Yeah.
Um,
Can I just
what
say the fact that this guy's speech in the movie, the fact that it like elicited this kind of like response in us as the audience, I think that's a good bit of credit to the movie. Like it's just like the whole situation is something that people I think can relate to in having their school experience. So the way that they show it and frame it is really, really well done.
exactly. And you know what's fucked up is that this movie is not going to come in a Vinegar Syndrome package, but goddamn Hard Rock Zombies did.
God damn Hard Rock Zombies, that fucking with actual Nazis in it. Jesus.
Exactly. uh I thought it was I thought it was pretty interesting that um as Randy is giving this speech, Danny, who is part of the magnet school program, he is obviously in charge of the student paper, right?
Yeah, he's like the editor, I think.
Yeah, I just thought it was kind of interesting that someone who's probably come in, you know, obviously into a school where he doesn't quote unquote belong, has assumed a position of power in it.
Yeah. I get
Um,
the impression that because even also like in this scene where Randy's given the kind of the weird speech, the our main character Danny, he's like he sort of sympathizes with it, and I get the impression that that's him trying to like fit in almost, like he's trying to assimilate into the school. I think he just ends up picking the wrong crowd, but
exactly.
that's kind of like the flashpoint for a lot of the what happens later in the movie. So I kind of like that you sort of see him struggle with his identity a little bit.
Kruger does agree with us, and he has drawn Randy as Hitler. Kruger,
He's a talented artist.
he is. He's a mechanical genius and a very talented artist. This school in the hallways scene doesn't have a graffiti problem. It has a plain Jane problem because the set is fucking gray.
And you know what? Like, if this were a shittier movie, I would fault it for that. But I think that's intentional. Like, especially again, they lit the high school hallway. It looks like a prison,
It does.
and it had to have been intentional. Like, just based on the quality of the movie overall, it had to have been intentional. So well done. But yeah, super gray and drab.
Uh, Miguel Nunez is getting some shit outside, something about headphones or something like that. It doesn't really play too much into it. We just see the fact that the Sentinels are razzing Miguel Nunez for
Yeah,
essentially doing nothing.
I think they like accuse him of having stolen. It's like he's got like a Walkman or something. I think they were trying to tell him he stole it. Some bullshit
Fucking
like that.
Nazis.
Yeah, damn Nazis.
And Randy's trying to smooge with Danny as he's the leader of the school newspaper, and kind of trying to get Danny on his side.
Yeah,
right?
trying to recruit him because I think Danny's kind of like vocalized some support in the meeting before, so he's like, "No, I should recruit this guy."
Exactly. And he invites him over to his super nice house. This house is kind of confusing from a geographic layout. Danny enters the front door, but they're still outside, right? Like it seems like they're
Is there like a courtyard or something, maybe?
kind of like if you look at the house, like the architecture of it, it's like this open air concept house where there are definitely walls, but there's also they don't all connect to form a box that you would live in.
Yeah, it's kind of open, like you said, like big open air sections of it. It almost looked like a museum.
Yeah, it did. That's why it was so confusing. Um,
Where are they now? This guy's house? What the?
exactly. But we meet the female love interest of this film, Julie, played by Carrie Lowell, who is a Bond girl. She was in License to Kill as
Really?
Pam Bouvier.
Hmm. I would not have pegged her for being a Bond girl.
Right? Not to say that she's ugly, just that she doesn't exactly have the Bond girl look. You know what I
No,
mean?
it's definitely more of like more youthful, kind of like girl next door kind of look, not like the
Yeah,
sort of like bombshells that James Bond normally goes for.
exactly. Exactly. She had a pretty interesting career. She was been in Law and Order. Obviously, she was a Bond girl. I didn't know this until I read her IMDb profile, but she was in A League of Their Own, the TV series. You're aware of that
I,
Tom
I
Hanks movie, right?
yeah, I know the movie. I didn't know that there was a TV show though.
Exactly. How weird is that, huh?
Yeah,
There was a TV show based off of that, only one season. Haven't seen it, so I don't have any any
that seems
Mama's
like
Family type trivia to tell you
oh my
there.
god, no. That seems like a theme. Like, was that just like a thing in the 80s and 90s where they would like any popular movie that they would try to do a TV series of? Because they did it with Nightmare on Elm Street, they did it with Friday the 13th, apparently.
They did it with quite a few different ones. Ferris Bueller, Animal House. Yeah, I don't I think it definitely was one of those things where it was essentially like, let's try to do this, but cheaper, right?
Cheaper and where we can put advertising in the middle of it.
Because like MASH worked. MASH was was a movie, and then they made a TV show, and
Yeah.
that TV show was hugely successful.
Yeah. I come to think of it, I don't think that's like an 80s, 90s thing. I think that's just like an always thing. Cause I mean, they still do that now with like, I remember all the Ghostbusters TV shows
Yep.
and
Uncle Buck had a TV show that recently, not recently, well, like maybe like within the last 10 years, they tried to do an Uncle Buck TV show. So definitely is a thing that they still do, but I think they did do it a lot more back then.
then, yeah.
Because there was a Weird Science TV show. I was actually talking about that with Jackie, and she was like, I have
Are
no
we
fucking clue
what?
what you're talking about.
No one knows what you're the only one who watched these shows, Phil. You're like in the Nielsen ratings, there's like one little kid who had his TV on.
Yeah. They're like, oh, that's Phil. Little Phil's
It's
watching this.
Phil. God damn it. Sorry. No one's watching. Close it up, boys. Just put Mama's Family
It's
back
like,
on.
yeah, we're only going to disappoint one kid in America.
We got to keep Phil happy.
Exactly. But yeah, there's an immediate attraction between at least Danny to the girl. I think like in the entire film, they don't really do a great job of the relationship
No,
between them, right?
they don't. It comes into play more at the end, but it doesn't feel like it was built up enough. Honestly, like the way that this scene is edited, like it's like she was there before the two guys got there. Like she was hanging out at her boyfriend's house, swimming in his pool. To be honest with you, Phil, I thought that she was his sister because the
Dude,
fact that
same
she was
here.
already in the house,
I thought that they
right?
were brother and sister too, and I thought it was going to be some weird incest thing.
Yeah, because they like give each other a weird look. It's like, oh, that's his sister. Why is he looking at his sister like that?
Exactly.
This is I never
Hundred
this is
percent.
that kind of canon movie. Jesus.
100%. But as the two men are talking, they kind of look at some guns and they're like, "Oh, you a big gun fan?" And Danny's like, "Yeah, sure." And Randy shows off his M16 that he just casually has laying around in his bedroom.
Rich people, man.
Rich people, and that's kind of where the conversation goes in the evening time too. As the entire family assembles, we realize that the dad is kind of low-key neo-Nazi as well, as they
Yeah.
comment on the pores, and they have a servant giving them film food, and it's
Delicious film.
exactly. So it's just kind of weird
It's
because
like there's another parallel there to American History X. Because remember in that movie, like you sort of see those flashbacks to Edward Norton's character, and like you realize he kind of got it all from his dad, who was a raging racist.
yeah,
Like you could tell that like it's like a generational thing. Like we hear this dad say some horrible things about the help, and it's like, oh, you're our pool boy, aren't you? You are going to college, aren't you? Like it's kind of it feels very cultish almost.
negging, right?
Yes, he's negging Danny hard about how poor he is.
um and they all decide to go to a nightclub, and as they're driving there, Danny compliments the car, and it's like, because it's like a Porsche or something like that. And Randy goes, oh yeah, this is
Yeah.
just a piece of shit. My Lambo's in the shop right now.
Yeah, he says something like, because he's like, "Don't you drive a Lamborghini or something?" No, it's in the shop. It's like this is just my loaner
Yeah,
Porsche. Rich
kind
people,
of
man.
rich, fucking rich people.
Fucking rich people.
The kids proceed to get pretty fucking loaded doing shots and stuff like that while they bop to the latest 80s hip hop in the discotheque.
Wow, you really like jumped around decades with that lingo there. Can you dig
uh,
it?
the movie's kind of weird because there's some strife with like different rich people in the club as someone's about to get stabbed. They have like
And
that like belt buckle knife that they like
yeah,
unsheath.
it's like the inside of it is like the inside of brass knuckles, but the out like a knife goes through your two middle fingers. It's kind of hard to
Kind of,
describe. It's a shank basically.
yeah.
And Phil, who is the one doing the stabbing?
That's I can't. I know what the guy's from. I don't know his name, but he's from Nightmare on Elm Street Part Two.
Yeah,
He's the
I had to look it up too. Robert Russler.
Yeah, he's the best friend of the main character in that.
Yeah,
How weird that he gets
such a
one scene.
yeah, and you really don't get a good look at him. Like I feel like weirdos like us who've seen Nightmare on Elm Street movies a million times would recognize him, but you have to look real hard. You only get like a quick glimpse of his face before he's getting tackled by the Sentinels when they find out he's about to stab someone.
Yeah, I like him as Grady in Elm Street too. Now that I can think of his name, he was in Babylon 5. He was like in a season of Babylon 5.
Oh, okay, so
Did you know
he
that?
did some stuff. I did not know that. No,
He's definitely still acting to these days. Again, just like another 80s actor who starred in these fairly popular movies, horror movies, but just was never able to achieve like
like
super stardom.
yeah, mainstream success. I mean, I guess it can happen to everyone, but there's a lot of those actors in this movie. Weirdly,
Exactly. And are
but
you
he's
ready for
great.
this?
Yeah.
He starred in the TV series The Outsiders based off of the movie.
What?
Yep.
Damn.
That was all. And you know who's in that? David Arquette and Billy
Man,
Bob Thornton. Weird, right?
they're like I feel like we've made this illusion before, but like imagine like Charlie in the mailroom in Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where he's like drawing like he's got like yarn drawn from picture. Like at the center of that yarn picture is dangerously close. Like everyone's got a connection to it.
Exactly.
Conspiracy.
And I would be remiss if I didn't say that Rod was in Star Trek Enterprise as Orgoth in the
Wait,
episode Anomaly.
I don't know. Enterprise is. I'd have to go back and look that episode up. I'm sure. I'm sure when we just rewatched that not that long ago. I'm sure when he came up, I was like, that guy looks familiar, and I couldn't place him at the time.
After an
Wow.
attack by Osarian pirates, the Enterprise follows them into a mysterious sphere. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a I my Enterprise knowledge is just that Scott
Oh,
Dracula's in it.
I those stupid spheres. Yeah, that's the start of the Zindi cycle. Because yeah, that's right. Okay.
There you go. The gang, the Sentinels, have arrived outside of Nunez's house, and they proceed to destroy the family station wagon. Like they beat the shit out of it, and they're like spray painting it, and one of the, I think it's Ripper, shoots at Nunez in his house, and like everyone's like, hurry up, get the fuck out of here, it's going too far. There's like all of a sudden things are just going zany.
Yeah, because like fucking Ripper, he's like a psychopath. He starts like firing guns up into this like apartment building. Like there's like he didn't kill someone.
Exactly. But yeah, that's the digs, and they ditch Danny outside of his house for him to sleep off the hangover. The movie, I think it does a really great job of kind of like, I guess, showing you both sides, because it isn't just Nunez getting shot at. Yeah. Oh, my second monitor just went out. What the fuck? Spooky. What? Get back on, you stupid piece of shit. This is that free one that I got. And like, I realize why it might be free is because that fucking power cord is finicky as
super janky
shit in the back.
If you just sneeze, that monitor's going off.
Yeah, exactly. I looked at it wrong and I was like, nah, dude, I'm done.
Don't you dare talk shit about Miguel Nunez.
Exactly. But they do a really good job of like when like we're seeing the rich people, like it's definitely feels like, that the life that they're living is different than I guess the poor people, right? And it's different in that like the rowdiness that the poor people go through are, well, I don't know, it's kind of like hard to explain, right? Like the rich people, they're still getting drunk, they're still getting high and loaded, and they don't realize that they're doing the same things as the poor people.
Yeah, exactly. They're doing the same, getting into the same kind of shit trouble. They're just doing it in a swanky nightclub.
Exactly.
Like that's the only difference.
Getting stabbed by boot knives
by
and shit.
By the help.
The dad does realize that Danny's probably having a rough go of it, getting drunk.
When did you start drinking?
Exactly. That was one thing, because I watched another 80s movies this week, is that it's the casual smoking and drinking of
teenagers,
80s kids.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because like earlier when they were at the rich kid's house, he's like, hey, you want to drink? And they're just like drinking whiskey and they're being served by the bar. Like, I know there was a time right around this when they changed the drinking age, but I think like it happened way after before 86, right?
I think so. It's just kind of weird, right?
Yeah. There's like, I guess, hey man, you're rich. You can do what you want.
Exactly. That's the great thing about being rich, I guess. The next day, Randy is there to pick up Danny in the morning, and Kruger is a little jealous over the new budding relationship between the two, as he pulls up to pick up his buddy, and he's not there. Right. And we kind of get a little strife when they're at school. Kruger's like, oh, fuck you, you're hanging out with him now, blah blah blah.
Right.
And there's more the honey dicking of Danny.
The honey dicking of Danny. That should have been like the subtitle of this movie.
Exactly. But yeah, so
Kruger's like basically telling him he's like a poser. I mean, yeah, he's like, yeah, like you're turning in one of those guys. You're just trying to like, basically like calling Danny out on trying to like compromise who he is to hang out with, quote unquote, the right crowd. Who he I think he might have some second thoughts after that night, but like he was basically trying to fit in. So at least we sort of see him we see behind the curtain a little bit, and Kruger's calling him out on it.
And I think that happens to everyone in high school, at least at one point in their lives, where they maybe try to, I guess, join a crowd that they don't necessarily truly belong to, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
That,
the popular crowd.
Exactly. Or they think that those kids are cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
it's relatable.
We see the Sentinels later on. They're painting over graffiti. I think it says like "sucks cock" or something like that on the side of the wall.
It does. Yeah, you see them. One of the guys like painting over the S in "suck" as we walk over.
It's funny. I don't know. That shit makes me laugh. Um,
That's Phil. He was the one who was drawing dicks on the bathroom
exactly.
mirrors.
Hey, man, that was me in high school. If you ever wondered who drew this dick in the bathroom stall, it was me.
It was
Tom
love it.
Matthews, meanwhile, is feeling guilt and he doesn't want to be a part of the Sentinels anymore, but he can't come out and like outwardly say it, right? He's just kind of, I'm done hanging out. I'm not going to be at the meeting next time.
Yeah, he's like, because like Randy's like, hey, we want to go teach Kruger a lesson or something, and I need you to show up. He's like, nah, man, I'm out. It's like he's basically seeing like it's getting too much for him. You can tell that I'm gonna call him Freddy because that's what he was in Return of the Living Dead. But anyway, Freddy, he's like, you could tell that he joined when they were just like painting over graffiti and cleaning up the cafeteria and stuff like that. But he's like, I like that there's nuance in the group where like not everyone has drank the Kool-Aid. And he's like, no, it's too much for me. Things escalated. I'm out.
Exactly. And that's what he goes to Danny to confide in that. Without spilling all the beans, he's just kind of like, hey, just be careful. You know what I mean? Like just be careful. Don't hang out
Don't get
with
too deep with them.
exactly. And unfortunately, for him, he does get deeper and deeper. But Kruger is going out for a ride after school, and he gets a flat tire because it got shot out.
Like it's like in broad daylight. One of these Sentinel idiots is like sitting up in a tree, sticking out like a sore thumb, and just like, what if I don't know, maybe he's that good of a shot, but I don't know. It seems like kind of a stupid thing to do in broad daylight with a giant assault rifle.
It is a yeah. Out of all this scene, because it's set during the daylight, is kind of awkward. You wouldn't
Yeah,
think that they would attack someone in broad daylight in this specific. I
I
don't know. It's just
guess.
kind of weird, right?
Yeah, they're kind of like, so we're in California and they're kind of out in like the deserty area. I mean, I guess it's rural enough that they think they can get away with it, but yeah, this definitely seems like the kind of scene you would have in the evening or at night.
Because this is also the same place that they had the last scene in the evening. Like Kruger falls in the same ditch. This is the
That's
same
true. It is the same
forest.
spot, yeah, with the kind of the swampy drainage area too. Yep, you're right.
But the Sentinel teens are assaulting him and kicking the shit out of him, and they hang him by a noose, and they're about to kill him. And Kruger, obviously very emotional, crying and stuff like that. As he gets, they let him go because these kids aren't, I guess, outright killing people, except for the person at the very beginning. But they're not
No.
killing people right now. And Kruger stumbles into the road as a car is careening down it, and his fate is left unknown.
Yeah, we right as the car you think is about to hit him, we cut away and we don't see anything. So I mean, at this point, yeah, we're like, shit, they killed Kruger now too.
Yeah, exactly.
But you bring up a good point.
Exactly.
Like we don't see, whenever we see them getting killed or we think you're getting killed, it's never like the main gang. Like they always are clearly just like still like borderline assault, but they're never actually killing them. Like they do the paintball, and in this case, the noose that they tied around Kruger's neck wasn't actually like attached to the tree. So when they kicked him off the stool, he just kind of fell to the ground and was scared shitless. So it's always like a little bit later that we see someone committing a murder. So you can kind of tell, oh, maybe there's something else going on here.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think Kruger does a really good job of evoking fear in the scene. Like you could definitely, like the actor is doing like a really great job in this moment.
Oh yeah,
Which again is like surprising why he never got bigger.
yeah, because you kind of see that, because he's got that kind of tough guy exterior that we were talking about, and you can kind of see him sort of that emotional transition from like I'm putting on a hard front to like where he's like a real like fear, and emotion kind of comes out later on. I like that he could kind of see that transition where his like shell gets cracked basically.
Exactly. The next day we see Danny cleaning the pool, and he's at the the girl's house. Now there's so many pools in this like northern California area. You know people are rich when they have pools up in the north because it must be a bitch to heat that thing.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Do rich people really not skim their own pools? That's like the easiest part about owning a pool, I feel like.
I don't know. It's kind of weird. Um, but as Danny is skimming the pool, Randy shows up and he's like, "Enjoy the view of my girlfriend who can barely see through the window." And then he goes up there and he commits some sexual assault.
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't be a canon movie without a bit of light sexual assault, but at least we
Exactly.
don't get to see it. So
Yeah,
that's good, I
it's
guess.
just
But
implied.
it's heavily implied that because I think she knows that the group is sort of like escalating their antics. So she's not really into the boyfriend anymore, Randy. So she's like, nah, I'm not in the mood. And he basically rapes her off camera.
Yeah.
So he's kind of a douche.
As Danny is driving back home, we realize that the dirt road that Kruger got assaulted on must be like a main road, despite it being single lane and a dirt road, because there's a backup of cars and
Yeah.
cops.
There's like a traffic jam and there's like multiple cops out there directing traffic on, and like I feel like we undersold it. They're like, this is like in the middle of nowhere. There's no, it's dirt road. Like there isn't even really a dirt road. It's just like sand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that there's that many people out there that they got to direct traffic.
Uh yeah, exactly. The next day, I'm assuming is the next day, Danny gets the information that the guy from the very beginning of the movie is dead, and this emotionally hurts him, despite the fact that we never knew that those two characters knew each other. Right? We're just assuming now, based off of that they know each other.
Right. Because and this is where I got a little bit confused because I think the guy's name was Morgan, right?
Yeah,
I I didn't really have a good grasp of who Morgan was. I wasn't sure if he was the very first guy or if he was Miguel Nunez because I don't think we see Miguel Nunez again
I don't think we
after
do
that.
either.
So I was
Yeah.
like, wait, who is dead? Yeah, I should have a really good grasp on who what the names going with which faces, but I guess the end effect was the same.
Um, Later that day, the Sentinels are all talking to the teacher, the stuffy teacher that they are associated with, and they're all kind of getting on the edge because dead bodies are showing up, and so with that is going to come the implication of murder.
Yes, we've got to call a meeting of the quote unquote student leadership. Ugh.
Uh, yeah, exactly, and that's when they use the offsetting the burden of ownership to the students right there, where like they even say it like it's up to you students to make sure blah blah blah, right?
Yep.
And that's when Randy kind of starts again going into his whole spiel of we should organize a group of students in order to police people.
Right. And I think
And
there's like a cop in the room, like a detective or something, and they're like before the cop walks out of the room, he's like, if we want to try to like work with the police to set up patrols and search parties and blah 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 blah. It's like, ooh, that's a whole other level of like kind of gross mixing with the with legit law enforcement.
exactly, yeah, you can't be really doing that, but
No.
that's what Randy's wanting. And I think Danny's kind of seeing it at this point now where it's like maybe he doesn't have the best intent.
No, it. So you're right. We get another speech here, which sets not only Danny off but also Brian, Freddy from Return of the Living Dead. And this is actually where the part of this speech is where we get the quote of the week, which is I liked the whole speech, not for like it was funny bad, but it was like it really set the tone for the movie. Like it was actually a really effective little speech that like made you realize how kind of like twisted this whole situation is. And we'll play the whole thing, but the one line that I want to like highlight before we listen to it is we've we like the Sentinels have compiled a list of students who need special help. how how creepy is that?
Very creepy.
We all knew that Morgan was into drug dealing, but not all of us wanted to do something about it.
Wait a second. This isn't a time or a place to start smearing a guy's name.
This is exactly the time and the place, Donnie. How many more deaths is it going to take? I know that it's sometimes difficult to get involved, but we are the student leaders. We've got a responsibility here. Now look, the Sentinels have compiled a list of 11 students that we feel need special help and guidance to avoid the traps that Morgan Black fell into. Since the magnet program started, we've had off-campus elements coming into our school, disrupting our lives. It's got to stop now, before anyone else gets hurt.
Like compiling lists of students, like it's some real like 1984 shit. I just love that whole speech, but that line in particular, it's such like a great way to show how much this little like student group has escalated their shit.
It's I definitely, and Tom Matthews in the next scene is kind of going deeper into that situation, speaking with Danny, and he's getting very emotional because he's realizing the danger that he's in now, trying to break that group up.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's like a mob thing where like you can't leave.
Exactly.
If you try to leave, they'll whack you basically, and that's spoilers. That's what happens.
Spoilers. I was kind of not shocked that he died, but the fact that it's just kind of like he went to his home world kind of death, right? Like it happens off screen.
Freddy's home planet needed him.
Yeah. Randy and Julie are having some strife after school. I think Randy's definitely realizing that Julie is not supporting him, despite the fact that like there's nothing ever really said throughout the film. You know, it's like all of a sudden it's at that point in the movie where those two have to break up.
Yeah, I feel like we needed some earlier scenes because even from the beginning, she seemed kind of like disillusioned with the whole thing. Even at that club scene in the very beginning, she was kind of distant. I feel like we needed to have her have the same arc that that Freddy, the other gang member, he needed to have, where he like you could see he's bought in the beginning, but then we see the transformation to skepticism, and then just outright, I'm done with this. I think that would have made this breakup scene a little bit more weighty.
Exactly. 100%. And Julie jumps into Danny's car and they drive away. Again, like there's no relationship to be had between those two. So I'd find it very hard to believe that Julie, the rich girl, would just get into Danny's truck and drive away, right?
Yeah, I don't really buy the chemistry between them, but I suspect, and I'll talk about this at the end, but I suspect part of their relationship might have ended up on the cutting room floor. I suspect that there might have been more to it, but we just didn't see it.
I would definitely hope so, right? Like, but again, it's a B movie, or I guess not really, because I don't know if this is a B movie or not, right?
It's a canon movie. We'll frame it that way.
True. Yeah, it's a canon movie, so who knows exactly what's going on there.
Got to get it to 90 minutes.
Exactly.
None of that 2-hour shit. We got to keep people in and out.
So now that we're in the third act of the film, this is where I guess it kind of turns into more of like a Scooby-Doo unsolving the mystery, where Danny and Julie now are going to set forth and investigate the plot of Randy and the Sentinels in order to see exactly what the fuck is happening, right?
Right. Because I think right before this, Brian, Freddie, as I'm calling him, he kind of like tips off. It's like, yeah, like they're into some weird shit. Like the teacher, he's also kind of intense. Like we've been doing like basically in that part of that be careful speech, he kind of like tips Danny off that there's something more going on. So that's like their kind of like drive to start like, okay, we need to start investigating them. So like, I think, is this when they go to the police initially to try and get them to help? Or is that later?
I think they're about to go there. What the next scene that's coming up is Tom Matthews making copies of all the tapes that has been made.
Oh my God, that's right. And that's when we see the tape that is so thoughtfully labeled Choice Kill Morgan Black.
Exactly. How fucking weird is that, right?
How stupid. It's just like you're handing that evidence to the cops on a silver platter, practically. Way to implicate yourselves, idiots.
Yeah. But he hides one of the tapes under the table, and that, I mean, obviously anyone who's ever watched a movie, that's gonna be the tape that our heroes find at the end of the movie. They're
Right.
definitely telegraphing that from a mile away, but that's okay. That's fine.
That's all right. Because I think that, so like this whole scene is Brian slash Freddy. He's already turned against the Sentinels, and so he went back here, I guess, to make that copy as evidence to hand over to the cops.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But then he gets interrupted. He hears someone creeping around, and we see an approaching car to that whole little warehouse facility clubhouse, and they're playing the same opera music from the beginning.
Yep.
Dun dun dun.
And he's kind of like vampire attacked. He's kind of like bear hugged. There's a scream, and then we see the shadowy figure doing something near the tapes, but not something to the tapes. And then the scene is over.
Yeah. Again, we don't see a murder happen straight on, but we know that's what's happening.
Danny, as he's driving the next day, finds a tow truck pulling Kruger's car, and Danny investigates the nearby field where he finds some Kruger paraphernalia. He like finds something that's like his, right? It's like in the weeds as he's like looking around, which again, you can tell this is a movie because he finds something, because if this was real life, you'd be like, I didn't find shit.
You wouldn't find shit. Like, why would, like, did the cops not look around the area? Like, why wouldn't they have found that if it was just like hanging out in plain sight?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get
Canon
it.
Cops.
Once again, there's like a scene of Julie at the beach just kind of like sunning herself. There's really no reason for her to be in a bikini besides like eye candy.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. Also, can we talk, like, she's tanning but in a one piece?
Yeah. It's gonna be an awkward.
Yeah, there's gonna be some weird like farmer tan going on there. Are you sure that's what you want?
But yeah,
but there's some weird editing going on here too, because I think we get some flashbacks at this point, don't we? Where like,
yep,
I think it's like of him going to talk to other people who've been harassed by the Sentinels to try to like do it, like that investigation. I think that's when he goes back to talk to Rob Rustler.
Yep,
the waiter.
Like, man, they're dangerous. They're like off the chain, or they're super dangerous.
Can you dig it?
Can you dig it?
Yeah, like, again, that's what makes me think that there was maybe like they actually shot full scenes of them going to talk to those people, and then they just like, the movie's too long, we'll cut it up into this kind of weird flashback, because like it's those scenes kind of like intercut with him sitting on the beach looking contemplative.
Exactly. Yeah. It works for the movie, I guess, by making it tighter.
Yeah.
But again, there's just like these weird, again, like now we have a beach scene with Julia. She's hanging around with her friends on a campfire. And it's like, why are we watching this? Out of all the things to cut, this is the thing that you can cut.
Yeah. Put the conversations with the other people who've been harassed back in and trim that down. But meh.
It is
I ain't
what
no
it
editing
is.
Expert.
Exactly. Julie shows up and she's talking to Danny, and that's when they decide to go to the cops to warn them that, hey, there's a gang that's going to essentially murder poor kids.
Yeah. Wait, real quick before we go off the beach scene, do you remember one of the other friend, I think it was Ripper's girlfriend, she's like showing off this new earring, and it's Kruger's earring. Do you remember that?
Yeah, vaguely.
Because there was like, we see Ripper pull it off of Kruger's ear when they were like harassing him earlier, which is horrifying. But like, and apparently, like, we see it again. We get a close up of it here. It's around it's around Ripper's girlfriend's ear, and she's like, "Yeah, he gets really pissed at me if I ever take it off. I think it's kind of weird." Like, oh shit, how fucked up is that? Like, forcing your girlfriend to wear an earring that of a guy from the guy that you like, we think you killed. That's like real psycho shit.
He gets to see the trophy, his like war trophy, all the time.
Oh yeah, that's gotta be it. I mean, it's super effective, but it's creepy.
But the cop kind of like disregards the two, and essentially is like, if no one's doing anything, there's nothing that we can do. We can't just go off of your guys' words alone. And that's what prompts them to start to investigate the Sentinel headquarters. And they find the room with all the tapes fairly easily. There's really no strife or anything preventing them from getting there.
No, they just bash in some rotted wood and they crawl through. Oh, wait, don't they trip like a laser sensor or something at that point, don't they, when they're getting in?
As they cross the threshold into the room with the tapes, a laser sensor goes off because that's a thing in the 80s, I guess, that anyone can just get.
Rich kids, man.
Exactly. As they start looking through the tapes, they quickly realize that, yeah, they're committing a series of heinous acts, and the Sentinels are now there, and things are about to get, dangerous, right? They call
Things
the
are
cops,
escalating.
and they call the teacher. And they realize that the stuffy teacher is also one of the murderers with the Sentinels, and then the power is cut and an attack is about to ensue.
Yeah.
And I kind of like the ending here. It's a little cheesy in aspects. It's a lot of these people are definitely not professional stunt people, so like large swings, right?
Yeah, the fight scenes are a little crusty.
Exactly.
It's no like Jackie Chan fight sequencing. It's, they did with the best with what they could.
And some of the violence kind of works because I think it's Ripper. He gets kind of fucked up in the scene. He gets like beaten, and
I think he takes a paintball to the eye too, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Like, and it's definitely
Ow.
like swollen shut. And then as the action dies, Danny kind of says, like, "Hey, do you realize that Tom Matthews died off screen and Kruger's missing, and the kid that you fucked up in the beginning of the movie is also dead?" And they're like, "We didn't kill anyone.
They were alive when we left them."
Exactly.
I don't know. How did you feel about this whole thing? Because like I feel like these Sentinel guys, like the fact that they're like all calm and reflective all of a sudden, I don't know. I feel like it wouldn't have de-escalated as quickly as it did in this scene if it were like real life.
I think Ripper, because he seems to be the more emotional person, definitely would have just fucked Danny up.
Kept fighting, yeah.
Yeah.
But he's like the one who comes down fastest of them all. Because like after he takes that paintball to the face, he's like a new man. Because they realize that Freddy/Brian is dead, and that just like he's like practically crying, and it's just a kind of a weird 180 emotionally for some of these characters who are like, focused hotheads for most of the movie.
Exactly. And then Randy turns out to be the more unstable person as he pulls a gun out, and he's essentially like, no one's gonna fucking leave this place until
no one's gonna desert.
Exactly. No one's deserting the gang.
Yeah.
And that's when the teacher shows up, and in the commotion, another kerfuffle happens, and a gun is shot, and the teacher is shot and killed. It happens in like a blurry, like it's a very 80s moment.
Like
right.
So like they're the teacher barges in, he's wrestling with a gun, and I think Randy wrestles with him, and then we quick cut to like a really close-up shot of a gun barrel head on and a gun going off, and it like the gun goes off and there's an echo, and then it kind of like fade transitions to like police lights, like the aftermath almost. Like you really don't know what happened until, like you said, you see the teacher basically in like a stretcher when they do the sheet over the face thing, and you realize that he got killed.
Yep. And Randy is sitting in his car listening to opera music. Essentially he's gotten away with everything, and I think that's my only real big beef with the movie, is that Randy, who is a villain, gets away with everything.
Yeah, that's my biggest beef in the movie, is this ending. Is it I feel like the Sentinels didn't get their comeuppance. Like they got off a little too easy. The fact that he wasn't also getting arrested there is crazy. But you missed probably the most important part of the ending, which is surprise, Kruger is alive.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Kruger pulls the dad in the closet scream gag where he's just like, "Hey, I went to a concert." Bop, bop, bop.
I was a level, yeah, like because it was like some throwaway line from a classmate. He's like, "Oh yeah, I heard there was a ska concert or some shit going on
Yeah,
up
that's right.
north."
A ska concert. That made me
Right?
guffaw. I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
Oh, ska. I mean, yeah, if you're gonna skip out on some murdering to go to a ska concert, you can pick a worse genre.
Yeah.
But yeah, Kruger's
Ska.
alive the whole time. But yeah, it's still awkward. Like we cut right from Kruger doing his surprise I'm alive thing right to Randy sitting in a car with opera music. Like, what's the implication there? Because we just got this whole thing where we're like, oh, he's redeeming himself and he realized it was wrong the whole time. But now we're back to him sort of like carrying on the cycle of violence. Like, I don't know. I feel like we could have just skipped the part where he thinks he's redeeming himself and just gone right to that. That would have been more fulfilling.
Yeah. I don't really know. I don't know what they were trying to go for with, I guess, not having him a part of the rest of the film besides just us going, "Oh, Kruger died." You know,
Yeah,
it is what
who
it is,
knows?
though. It happens. It
A,
does happen.
a small pockmark on an otherwise really good movie. It was like a 4 out of 5, I think, for me.
Definitely. Same for me. And if it, there was parts of it I was getting confused because listeners, we took a couple weeks off, so I actually watched this movie like 2 weeks ago. What I was getting confused with some of the like terms or like the gangs is because I watched a Vinegar Syndrome movie called The Wolf Pack yesterday, and it was essentially this movie but worse.
but enough to confuse you.
Yeah, because it was like it kind of had like the same thing of like
Yeah.
these rich students beating up the poors, blah blah blah. Like
And
again,
then
like it's
yeah,
weird that there's multiple of these movies.
of these movies, yeah, because what was the other one we watched? It was like, and it was another like vigilante thing that kind of like goes too far. What was it? We talked about it the last episode, I think, too. Young Warriors, right?
Young Warriors, yeah.
I think that must have been a genre. Because it's speaking of genre, like, what? How would you classify this movie? It's not really action. It's not really horror. I guess like thriller drama, thriller suspense,
Fascist student film.
fascist student film. Yeah, it's a hard thing to pin down, but I mean, there's definitely like drama aspects. There's some action, but yeah, neo-Nazi hate film. I don't know. It's in that same category as like the American History X's and things like that.
Because this movie, and again, it's canon. So what does canon do? They ape off the success, or they do something in similar of a more popular or higher budget film. The Brotherhood of Justice came out in 1986, starring Keanu Reeves and Kiefer Sutherland and Billy Zane, and they star as a high school students who start a vigilante group to combat crime in their neighborhood.
Oh my God, really? Okay, that actually explains a lot. I mean,
But
I guess
Greg,
they did well, but
that explains part of it. Are you ready to go a little bit deeper, though?
oh yeah, let's go real deep. Get
Let's
down
talk
that
about the
rabbit hole.
Legion of Doom. In 1985, a group of Texas students who are still unnamed to this day are accused of bombings, threats, gang violence. These are a group of honors students who banded together to get rid of undesirables in their area in Texas. This is
Wait,
an
this
actual
really
real life
happened?
event. Yes.
Holy shit! I mean, I guess so. That must have been the sequence of influence. Then, like that happened, and then they made the one with Keanu Reeves about it, and then they made this to copy off that one. Is that you think the sequence there?
I think it is. How crazy is that?
Yeah, that's insane. That I mean, I guess I'm not that surprised. I'm sure crazier things have happened, but I don't know. Yeah, it's scary to think that something like that is capable of happening in real life.
Yeah, exactly. That high school students care so much. I don't know. Kind of
We've got
weird.
to keep our student body pure. Ugh. Real, yeah, like I said in the beginning, the weird like neo-Nazi white supremacist kind of nonsense. So yeah, I guess I'm not terribly surprised that it did happen in real life, but consider what happened in this movie. Yeah, it's scary. Glad that our high schools weren't that bad, I guess, unless it was all behind the scenes and we just didn't notice it.
I don't think I ever had a moment in high school where I ever went, oh, I'm gonna, fuck someone up, or I care so much about this place that I'm willing to to
You
to to
to go that
murder
far.
someone.
Yeah, you didn't join your local chapter of the Sentinels. It's a
No.
national organization now, apparently.
If there was ever anything for me, it would have been like the apathy club, right?
Don't give a shit. Come to our club or don't.
I don't care. This means nothing to me.
Don't give a shit. Um, I want to mention something. Speaking of like other, kind of like other canon movies. Did you notice? Since you watched it a couple weeks ago, you might have forgotten, but there was a scene when the love interest girl, she comes to Danny's place in the boondocks and knocks on his door. And when we get a shot if in the house and the dad is like asleep in front of the TV. Did you happen to catch what was playing on the TV?
He's watching a movie. Was it The Thing from Another World?
It was Delta Force.
That's right. It was the sound effects.
It was the theme song. Well, we'll play it. We'll play a clip of it here.
Shh. Dad, look.
And we talked about that song because it's a great song. And it wasn't it was like some famous composer who did that music, right?
Alan Silvestri.
Yeah. I was like, oh my god, that's it. It was like a laugh out loud moment for me to notice. Like, of course, the Canon guys put their own music, their own movies into their own movies.
Yeah, I remember it was another Chuck Norris film, and they were watching Spider-Man, and I was like, I bet you this is because they tried to get Spider-Man, and they're trying to get people low-key hyped for it.
And then that actually happened.
Yeah, and then it actually happened. Oh,
it's almost like I love the idea that all of these canon movies exist in the same universe. Because another interesting thing that just jumped to mind, remember when near the end they were trying to when they were having that little reflective moment in the clubhouse, and they were talking about how the teacher was like, they think he's the murderer because he quote talked about how easy it was to kill the VC. What if he was one of the POWs in Missing in Action and he was scarred?
That would be pretty dope. That takes a lot of we have thought this through type situation.
A lot of forethought that that definitely did not happen. But I choose to believe in my head canon that there was a shared canon verse.
My head canon.
Exactly. But
we can only hope. We can only wish that would be something like this.
I know. What else to say about Dangerously Close? We talked about the technical aspects, lighting, cinematography. We're punching above their weight class for a canon movie. That's really good. The music was really good. There's some really great Tears for Fears songs in this.
Yeah. Again, kind of surprised by the soundtrack for the film is definitely really good.
Yeah, it's amazing they got the rights to some of these songs because they were big acts in '86. But yeah, good music, good performances by a lot of familiar faces to especially the '80s horror fans. So yeah, I think it earns that 4 out of 5. I think if the ending were better, it would probably be closer to a 5 for me. But overall, yeah, definitely a recommended watch, I think.
If it's a $9.99 Blu-ray, I'll snap it. I will buy it.
Speaking of which, so there is no. You answered the question, I think, already. That there's no Blu-ray of this because I would want to own this.
Yeah, this is definitely worthy of sitting on the shelf.
Yeah, I think like I said, it punches above its weight class. It seems like it's one. It could be like a Vinegar Syndrome or an Arrow Video kind of release. But maybe one day. I mean, it was in. So we watched this on Paramount Plus. It was in HD there, so that there's an HD scan of it that exists somewhere. It just hasn't been released yet.
Exactly. We can only hope. We can only hope.
Keep your eyes peeled, folks. Send us an email. Send us a tweet if you happen to find a Blu-ray of it.
And then I'll buy it. What have you been watching recently? I know, obviously, this wasn't a bad film. So, what other good films have you been watching?
What other good films? Yeah. So, well, I'll preface this by first saying that um, Elden Ring came out a couple weeks ago. So, my movie watching has taken a serious hit. I've got my priorities in order. But in terms of other movie watching, Becky and I, we went to the Alamo Draft House yesterday and they did a new movie marathon. So normally they do every Halloween they do a movie marathon called Dismember the Alamo, which is always a lot of fun. It's like a 3 or 4 movie mystery marathon. You don't know what you're going to see until you get there. It's always a lot of fun. That they're always like great niche trashy movies that are fun to watch with a crowd. So they did those are that, that's all horror movies obviously. So they did another event this past Saturday called Cinema Apocalypse, which is basically like a wider like any genre movie, like action, like 70s action and weird foreign films, and it was kind of like a wider pool of things that they could do. But it was the same setup where it was a kind of like a mystery marathon. And Phil, I didn't tell you, I want to surprise you with the movie list. They started off, it was 3 movies. The first one that they did was the Rudy Ray Moore classic, The Human Tornado.
Oh my God.
How awesome was it to see that in on a big screen? I mean, it was because
that's a great movie.
It was awesome to see because they did a show of hands afterwards. And it was like most of the people in the audience had never seen a Rudy Ray Moore film before, so there were a lot of big laughs at that one. So off to a great start there. The second movie was a 90s made for Showtime, made for cable TV movie called Amanda and the Alien.
Okay.
It was the weirdest shit that I've ever seen. There were lots of really weird close-ups of coffee being made throughout the whole movie. But the gist was basically this like, grunge 90s girl Amanda meets up with this alien who could like shapeshift by eating people, and she eats her ex-boyfriend who's a douche. But when the alien turns into the boyfriend, she falls back in love with him, and there's all these weird sex scenes of her having like food on her, and the alien eats the food off of her. And I guess paprika, the spice, is like an aphrodisiac to the aliens, so like she's sprinkling paprika on her body, and
okay,
the aliens eating. I feel like I'm like losing everyone now because that's how freaking weird this movie is.
That is weird.
Yeah, I've decided that I need to watch more 90s like B movies, because if that's the kind of crap that we're in for, it was a funny watch.
Interesting.
And the last one was a 1981 Taiwanese film called Thrilling Bloody Sword. And it was also really bonkers. It was kind of like a Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, but with like that classic like Asian cinema like wizard battle thing going on and mysticism, but there's also a magic sword. I can't even describe it, but go look it up and see if you can find a trailer or something, because it's absolutely insane. Overall, a great like mix of 3 different movies with different kinds of craziness. So yeah, it was a fun couple hours at the movies on Saturday.
Huh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
definitely. That definitely seems worth the time. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. What's you been watching, Phil?
Oh, I watched Scream 5 finally. Very good.
Awesome.
It was very enjoyable. I watched Jackass Forever.
Yeah.
Hilarious. I thought I was gonna vomit at one point. When Preston shit his pants. Yeah, that one sent me over the edge there.
I'm a grown man. I'm not supposed to shit my pants.
Exactly. I watched The Wolf Pack, which again, very similar to Dangerously Close, but worse. And then I picked up another Vestron video movie, and this one I'll go into just a little bit more in depth. It's called Dream a Little Dream, starring Corey Haim and Corey Feldman. So I bought this because
the Coreys.
Exactly. I thought I saw this movie when I was a kid, but I was thinking about a different Corey Feldman film. It's a body swap film where Corey Feldman swaps bodies with an old guy. But this is the weird thing. Like the old guy goes into Corey Feldman. Corey Feldman doesn't inhabit the old guy though. They like kind of disappear. And like Corey Feldman is in the consciousness of the old guy who's in the conscious, like in the body of Corey Feldman. This movie is a disaster on multiple levels. It has 4 different plots going on: a body swapping magic with an old guy, a buddy comedy about slackers in high school, Corey Feldman and Corey Haim, a romantic comedy about falling in love with your friend's girlfriend, Corey Feldman falling in love with another character in the film, like his girlfriend, and then high school drama involving bullies and the perils of teenage angst and anger, because the guy, Corey Feldman, steals the girl from the guy.
Mhm.
The guy is kind of bullied, and he at the end of the movie, he like pulls a gun and he's about to murder some students.
That
movie
went
is-
from 0 to 11.
Is 2 hours long.
Oh God.
And throughout the movie, that song Dream a Little Dream, you know, like Dream a Little Dream, for me, is played multiple times in different styles. And at one point, Corey Feldman, who is in his height of emulating Michael Jackson, because Michael Jackson was super popular in the 80s.
Yeah.
He has like the Michael Jackson hair and everything, does a Michael Jackson type dance to the music.
What? How
Yeah.
does that even work?
It doesn't.
It's
The
like
movie,
jazz music.
the movie is something to see from the simple standpoint of how horrible it is.
Oh my God. Dream a Little Dream. Interesting.
Jackie and I were just confused. I was super tired yesterday because I woke up super early because of my allergies. I thought I was just having a really hard time following the movie, but the movie is just a fucking disaster.
That experience sounds like when this audience was watching Amanda and the Alien, like just a lot of like, kinds of moments, and like thinking that you're the problem by not following it, but it's actually just the movie that's really weird.
Yeah,
Oh
couldn't
my
believe what I was or wasn't seeing in the movie.
What a missed opportunity. Like a Freaky Friday kind of movie with the Coreys could have been gold, but
Exactly.
it sounds like they had a bunch of crap on top of it.
It was a shit sandwich.
Yeah, a Corey and shit sandwich.
Yep. But you know what? I don't think our next film is going to be that bad, Greg.
Oh, another banger, huh?
I'm hoping so. Because we're going to watch Curse 2, The Bite.
Are we doing it? Are we going to watch Curse 2?
We're going to watch Curse 2, The Bite. I have to see this movie. I have to see, after reading the
that
tagline.
byline. Yeah, that alone. I mean,
I have to know, does he poop out snakes? How does he get the snakes out of his body?
where is he spawning these reptilian creatures from? We hope it's his asshole, but if it's anywhere else, it could be cool too.
So weird. So weird. I need to see it though.
Are we gonna have to pay to watch this? Where is this streaming anywhere?
Oh, it's streaming somewhere and it's pretty good quality. So
boy.
it's gonna be free.
Hey-o.
But I think it's definitely not letterbox. So it's 4:3 aspect ratio.
Oh, well,
I think for free, you know, like we can let this one slide.
yeah, beggars can't be choosers. We'll take it. Was this like a real release? I forgot to ask, or was this also, because this sounds like a made for like a Sci-Fi Channel movie.
If the Sci-Fi Channel was making B-list schlock, yeah, I mean it. I think it was after the film was completed, the film retitled. The film was released on VHS, so this is a direct to VHS film.
Oh, okay, so kind of like a made-for-TV movie almost. Direct-to-video is almost as good or bad, I guess.
So
Awesome.
that should be pretty good. The movie, as we already know, stars the kid from Dangerously Close, but we're gonna definitely have some classic TV talk because Jamie Farr from MASH is in this movie.
Slumming.
Yeah, or slumming or elevating, because this is definitely past MASH. So
True,
this is the
yeah.
90s. This is old Jamie Farr, where they're not gonna like pay him to dress up and look like a woman.
Yeah, it's true. They're taking what they can get.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, do you have anything else?
No, I think I think I'm good. I think definitely check out Dangerously Close if you can if you've got Paramount Plus, give it a watch.
Awesome. And remember, since we said it,
That's canon.